Welcome to episode number 143 of CXOTalk. I'm Michael Krigsman, and today we are speaking with Elisa Steele, who is the CEO of Jive Software, and we're going to talk about enterprise collaboration. Elisa, how are you?
I'm good. I'm excited to be on CXOTalk. Hi, Michael.
Hi. Well, thank you so much. You've had such an interesting career. You've done so many different things. And this topic of enterprise collaboration is such an important one. So I really appreciate your taking the time.
You bet.
So Elisa, let's start by tell us briefly about your career history, the things that you've done, just so we have some context about you.
Sure. I started my career in sales, actually, and then moved to marketing. And honestly, from the very beginning of my career, I have always been very interested in how people work together. And over the course of my career, as all of us, technology has changed incredibly. So it changes the way you communicate. It changes the way you work with teams. And so I've always been fascinated with this idea about collaboration. And of course, as many of us have gone to different types of schools and education and graduate school, collaboration becomes more and more important. And so here I am now, never really knew I would be where I am now, but leading a company of a team of people who really believe in how to help people work really strongly together to achieve great things. So I feel lucky now that every day I wake up to come to work, it's really about something that's been a passion of mine for a very long time. And I've worked in tech in different positions in different companies and have had exposure to so many different types of technologies and avenues of how to communicate and connect with mass audiences in the consumer world or with smaller, more focused work groups in the enterprise world. So I've had, the opportunity to be exposed to a lot of different things.
And I know that you were CMO at Yahoo and other places, but tell us about Jive. Give us a sense of the size of Jive and your market. So give us a context there.
Sure. So Jive is about a $200 million public company. We offer, sell, and evangelize services that help people work together across diverse locations, diverse work groups, different types of work processes, and we provide software and really cool technology to help people do that on any device from wherever they are. We're about a 700-person company. We believe in the power of human centricity and using technology to connect the best ideas in the world. And we have locations all around the world. We have people in our company who work from all different locations, and we're probably the best use case of our technology. We wake up and use it every day and use it to connect with fellow Jivers around the globe as well as our customers.
So what, as CEO, describe your role?
Well, as CEO, I feel that I'm the champion for all things related to the company and our success. Sometimes that's a champion for customers. Sometimes that's a champion for our employees. Of course, it's a champion for our shareholders. And I like to represent the best of Jive, and I like to dig in deep where we have issues, challenges, or problems to solve. We're a very flat company from the standpoint of we all work together on the key things that we're trying to drive. So as CEO, I want to make sure that all of the different teams have the resources, the tools, the empowerment to work on what they're doing and create the best that they can, and really have the vision and the inspiration to move the needle. I believe in decision making at all levels in the company. I believe the people who are closest to the work and closest to the customers know the most and should be empowered to make those decisions and move the ball forward on the line. So every day I wake up as CEO, I want to champion people's success in the company, and I want to champion our customers to achieve what they're trying to achieve.
So that's a key part of what you do, is focusing on the activities that the folks inside the company are doing and making sure that those activities are connected to customer needs.
And that they're the right thing. So I think, myself, along with the executive team, create focus for the company so that we're really working on the things that we think are meaningful to create the best results. And as CEO, I think it's super important to be connected with the market. What's happening with the market? How are people changing? What is it that is the next thing, to be able to help people solve collaboration problems and be the best at that?
So as you're speaking with your customer, what are some of the key collaboration issues that you observe?
I think today's world in general, even before talking about Jive and what we do with our customers, today's world in general has dramatically and significantly changed. And it's going to change faster and faster every time we have access to new technology. So we're seeing these shorter turnaround times for change. And in our business, because we're all about productivity, getting work done, being engaged, driving to the right mission, those technology changers matter a tremendous amount because people form habits of how they connect with people and how they get their work done. And what we want to do at Jive is always give them the ability to have access to things that help them do a better job. And so as the world continues to evolve around new technology, Jive thinks about, and we think about, how do we help people have access to the right technology at the right moment? We also have a changing workforce in a pretty major way. Because of technology, we can all be remote. Look at this interview. We're doing, this hangout interview with people from wherever and all over the place, contributing to today's show. And you don't have to be in the office. You don't have to be in a certain location. And so we have employees and workforces spread all around the world. We have multi-generational workforces who have different habits of how they grew up and what they're comfortable with. And we have different styles of work. People learn differently and they interact differently. And so technology can be used in ways that are more advantageous for one individual's style versus another individual's style. So if you put all of that out, I really believe when we talk about, and the industry talks about, the future of work, I think it's really right now today that is so different. And if you haven't been able to really learn and adapt and embrace new technologies on how you interact with people, then you're probably not able to keep pace. And so it's a fast-moving industry, testing and trialing all of the time. And I think because of the changing workforce, that means we change the nature of the way that we work on our business and with our customers. I think that technology enables us to actually be more accessible to our customers and have more unique, genuine, authentic dialogue.
So, all of this, it's so interesting to hear you describe this, this digital world that is so geographically dispersed, which means that we're bringing all of these different kinds of people in different roles and different locations together. And so what does all of that mean from the standpoint of effective collaboration? And collaboration is the backbone of accomplishing anything in any organization.
So there's a pretty significant challenge going on in the workforce around what people may call talent wars. And we're all competing for the best talent to be able to contribute to your company, your mission, your objectives. And to do that, you've got to provide an environment in which people can be their best and they feel that there's not a lot of friction in how they can actually achieve their goals. It's super important. The span of an employee spending time as a full-time employee in your company is shortening and shortening. That creates productivity issues. So the environment for collaboration, the environment for an individual to be able to get their work done with ease and simplicity is critically important. We also know that as companies are moving forward to stay connected with their customers, everybody is digitizing their business. The front office, the back office, everything in between. And to be connected to your customers in a way that is very intimate, but in a digital world, not only on massive public social networks, but how do you connect with your customers in a way that's meaningful through digital technology? Well, you know, today about 30% of companies are working with their customer communities through digital technology. Is a very low percentage. But these companies who are doing it really well can actually demand a premium in the marketplace because customers feel so much more connected. They get value. They drive engagement with other customers. They learn faster. They're more affiliated with your product and your service. And companies reap the benefits of that from being able to have a premium relationship, which leads to higher margins, higher ability to retain customers. It's predicted by a couple different analyst firms that by the end of 2017, there'll be 80% of companies with digital communities for their customers because it's becoming really critical to that advantageous and high value relationship. So I think this world of how do we communicate in a digital world that's really exploded in the consumer world and it's exploded in the back office for companies. Now the next thing I think is all about how do you use this digital technology to bring your customers in and have a very meaningful relationship, not only between the brand and the customer, but the customers of the same brand.
So the notion then is, how do we use these types of technologies to create intimacy with our customers and to help our customers create intimacy with their customers?
That's right, and value that is exchanged that creates, you know, a positive business result and brand affinity. And that value sometimes is around productivity. Sometimes that value is around early understanding of technology. But mostly that value is about how do you help that leader in that company solve their key business problems. And if you can do that in a digital, smart, connected way, then they're going to stay pretty darn close to you.
And so how does collaboration technology help do that?
You know, collaboration technology, I bet most of your listeners and viewers would agree, it's changing all the time. And in this industry, there's always new technology that you can go try. This is a time where I think this emerging market, which has been very different in the past with just a few players, there's an opportunity for increased innovation, increased pace, because of all of the entrants that are coming into this market. Everyone needs and wants to be able to work in a better way. What do I mean by that? You know, I really believe that because of technology breaking down barriers, the lifestyle we lead every day is what we expect at work now. We don't expect to, you know, go home, have our personal life, hang our hat at the door when we walk into work, and now we have our work persona. It's actually all integrated because sometimes we're working from home, sometimes we're working from our car, sometimes we're in the office and we're connected to some part of our personal life, whether it be our kids or significant others that we've got to connect with. We're constantly using technology all day long. So I believe in this concept that lifestyle has translated to our work style. And if you can create a work style in your organization that really welcomes that concept and brings people into it, you're going to get higher productivity. You're going to drive more employee engagement. You know how much economic waste is in this in our economy of disengaged employees? There's actually a 2-to-1 ratio between disengaged employees and engaged employees. Of course, we all want people who are engaged working on our brand and our company and our mission. And so once you have the right employee who's engaged, you've got to be able to stay connected and be able to give them the environment to really give their best at work every day. And then you're going to get that high value relationship.
And obviously, collaboration is a key part of it. But so for you as CEO, I'm assuming that this is something that you must be thinking about all the time.
Well, it's something I live, actually. I really live it all the time. And it's why Jive was such a great fit for me. All the different companies I've worked for in my career and thinking about what I want to do next. It was really about, for me personally, culture. What's the environment that I want to work in that is really compatible with my style and can bring out the best in how I want to work with people? And Jive, as I mentioned, culture is extremely special. It's very open. We work together across all of our functions, across all of our levels in the organization to solve problems, solve our customers' problems, and to create excitement and plans for the innovation that we're doing inside the company. And we work in small teams, we work in larger departments, we work across the company, and that's where I get a lot of energy from that. I have a lot of passion around that, and I believe companies who really embrace culture to attract the best talent are the ones who ultimately do better. As a matter of fact, I mean, as most companies do, we survey our own customers all the time. Every stat you look at in the marketplace of other third parties doing studies around the future of work, you'll see all the kinds of trends that I've talked about today. But specifically, we also want to know, well, how do our Jive customers actually use the product and get business results? And we've recently completed a survey that is absolutely, insightful for us. Our customers who use our product every day report that on average, there's almost a 30% increase in productivity in their company. They report there's almost a 30% decrease in their ability to, in terms of time, in onboarding people and getting them ready to be able to do a really good job for their company. And this is super important because if you're adding productivity and you're decreasing the time it actually takes people to be productive, then you're really driving the right business results.
So Jive is a public company, but you're not the size of a General Motors or an Intel. And if we think about very large organizations that face these cultural challenges, even to such an extreme degree, how can collaboration or what can these companies do to help drive culture and harness it in the way that you're describing, which is it's just so much more difficult in a larger organization?
It is and it isn't. So this is a great question to talk a little bit about, because culture, I don't think, is defined by size. It's really defined by leadership. And what does leadership want out of the company, and then what do they encourage in terms of behavior that is around that culture and supporting that culture? We see huge companies, PwC, Cisco, many other big companies use Jive across their entire enterprise and use Jive as a hub for people to be able to get their work done across many different systems. Jive is a place where people can go to find the things that they need to get their job done. It's a place where they can collaborate and connect with small work groups or larger departmental news. And in companies that have leadership that really embrace that culture, it's extremely valuable and people are very, very engaged. We also see the same behavior in smaller companies because we don't really look at the market in a traditional way in terms of this size company needs this kind of solution. Because what we see is multiple size companies have the same types of issues or problems they want to solve around connecting their workforce, uniting the team against their mission, and then creating value with their customers by driving digital strategies. So even at the smaller end of the market, we have companies like GoDaddy and many other companies in the growing part of the market. MapR is another example where they're using technology like Jive to get their work done every day and connect and unify that workforce. It is a competitive advantage to have everybody working on the right things that are going to advance the company's agenda. And so I think it's not about size, it's about culture, and it's about leadership.
That's a very interesting point. And so what are the leadership attributes or the steps that a company should take in order to align the culture, as you're saying, to get people inside connected and to bring customers closer to the company and bring the people inside the company closer to the customers?
I think about three things, really. One is that the culture of the company needs to embrace different work styles. There's a really important change of the workforce that's going on that we talked about earlier around multi-generational, multi-location, diversity of thinking, that companies really need to be able to embrace so that they can have that level of connection and diversity in their workforce. So embracing those different diverse work styles and then giving them the tools to be able to work across that together. And the second is to empower and engage employees. So it's not enough to just kind of individually give the tools, but how do you empower your employees to be able to use those tools to make decisions, move things forward, and have empowerment. And the third is to engage customers on a customer's term, not your company's terms. I think the world has completely changed in how brands are managed. It's not really about who you think you are, it's who you truly are in the minds of your customers. How do they see what you're doing of value or not of value? And they really own the connection to your brand. So you have to deeply understand how customers are perceiving you and then drive your strategy, your company strategy and your brand around making sure that you have great insights there. So I would say individual work styles, super important. The engagement of employees at every level, from team to group to department to company. And then how are you digitizing and creating customer connection between your brand, your customers, and that creates a community of interest that then can be used to help your prospects understand your special value proposition that's unique and differentiated.
So focusing on collaboration this way creates a kind of coherence inside the company around the identity of what the company is, but that needs to be very strongly, needs to recognize how customers see the company.
Absolutely. I think there's a real understanding in the market today that customers, the shift of customers having so much accessibility to your brand, to your company, to your other customers, has changed the way that companies need to manage and create strategies. It's all about how technology has exploded. It's all about the fact that you can go to a public network and write your opinion as an individual customer or consumer, and that could actually impact others' views of your company and impact your own company's actions. So this shift from the company really owns how they're going to message is really moving to the customers and your prospects own how you're perceived, and become so much more transparent in the marketplace that you've got to take it into account in terms of how you manage the business.
Elisa, we have a question from Twitter from Arsalan Khan, and this is an interesting one. And he asks, what kind of cultural barriers do you see among your customers when they're trying to embrace collaboration?
I love this question. This question is actually the heart of understanding how to break through the barriers, because you can have the best technology, you can have the best product, and you can even have all of it available to your employees, and then it doesn't work. Why is that? It's because of either two things. One, the culture doesn't support it, and two, the people don't embrace it. So it's really all about the people. And what we've found is that customers who have leadership orientation around all the things we talked about today, embracing the work styles, driving a more transparent culture, making sure that their workforce is aligned to their mission, driving to the transparency that the modern workplace expects today, that is super important to be able to adopt and drive the right technology in your organization. Otherwise, what happens, people will do one or two things. They'll either find the technology and the stuff they want anyways, and it will be siloed off in a particular area of the organization, which means it doesn't have as much power. Or two, they don't stay at the company and they move on to a place that really makes sense for them. And so it's super important in the collaboration business that technology companies don't just focus on the best technology. You've got to innovate and have the best approach to that. They also have to understand people and how people react and change. The best way that we found on that is either the culture is compatible from the get-go, or there's a champion in the organization who really believes in the model and wants the culture to evolve. That tends to be someone pretty high up in the organization. It could be a CEO or someone from the C-suite who's really driving the transformational change that company is trying to achieve in their world. So it's always people plus technology. It can never be one or the other.
So you raise a really interesting point, and when companies are building a community or trying to foster collaboration, there's always the fear that we'll build it and no one will come, so that adoption won't be there. And so what are the things that a company that is trying to build a community needs to do in order to encourage adoption and broad dissemination and use of this collaboration technology?
Yeah, I mean, we found that once teams start to adopt a different way to work, that it can be very visible in the organization and others start to participate. It's really getting to the use case, the particular solution that's going to address the business problem that company is trying to solve, and then having a change management program and capability alongside the technology. Now, once the transformation starts to take hold, a lot of our Jive customers say this to us. They say, I could never go back to the way I used to work, because what they found in working this way is that they get much greater results, much greater fulfillment, much greater connection. And many times when our customers maybe move on from one company to the next company, one of the first things they try to champion is to bring Jive into that company. Because just as our habits of the past kind of bring us along to today, once you develop a habit in how to work this way that is extremely empowering and very productive, you don't want to give it up.
Makes sense. Once you do it, you don't want to go back.
That's right.
So a few more comments from Twitter.
Okay.
So Christopher Kelly says, congratulations on your growth and being on the Deloitte 500.
Hi, Chris. Thank you.
We have great participants with CXOTalk. And Bob Rothman asks an interesting question. He says, how do you align people when diverse points of view are so strong and they're coming from a great place?
Did you say that was Bob?
Bob Rothman.
Okay, Bob, that's a great question. And I think I'm going to tell a story for that one. When people work together, there's always a different level of communication and different types of teams. And when you work very openly, a very interesting thing can happen, which is the team, the best ideas actually rise to the top. I had an experience where we were doing a big idea jam around a certain topic, and there were hundreds of people involved in this idea jam, and it was very, very visible. And the whole concept of an idea jam is, like a hackathon or a hack day in engineering. You want to actually take the best ideas and do something with them. Maybe it's not create a product, but you want to actually take action. You want to drive a new program. You want to make an executive decision. And people get involved, and there's so much diversity of opinion, and you're exactly right. Some of the ideas can be actually non-productive or unproductive, and you start to see, oh my gosh, well, what if it's that the whole group that's participating here votes for that idea? What the heck am I going to do about it? And what I see time and time again, whether it's this idea jam that I'm referring to, or whether it's what you would quote unquote call bad behavior or difficult situations, people actually self-correct, and they bring the best of ideas, and people tend to then rally around those ideas and then lift them up. And this is what I think is so inspiring about open technology and about sharing ideas and about working in this kind of manner, is that people can really get unified to how they're going to move forward because of the fact that there's diversity of opinions. If you put that all together and then drive a decision around it, you tend to get most people on board. I think this is an incredible way of management, and I think it's an incredible way of hearing diverse opinions so everything can be considered before a decision is made. I do believe it's super important in today's culture to be able to say, this is what we're considering, and you go through all of those motions for diversity of opinion and thought and all of that, and then you have to have a clear process of who's making the decision and then how you move forward and execute together. But when you do it that way, your teams come along versus feeling like, well, what about my ideas?
So it's a matter of having the right environment along with the technology and that kind of sense of inclusiveness where the diversity of opinion matters, but at the end of the day, we're going to go for the idea that seems to be the best idea.
And the flip side of Bob's question is true too, which is using our ideas were hidden in organizations before. How could you find ideas in the corners of organizations or in remote locations or in other areas of the company? You couldn't, because you couldn't lift them up to be so visible and so apparent to others. And now with technology, you can do that. We have so many stories in our customer base of ideas that were never known to the company that then solved really critical problems once the organization developed a different way to work. We have one customer who tells us a story about an entirely new revenue generating product line because of the way that they changed the way that they worked, and they were starting to bring forward ideas that, wow, like these are ideas we actually want to execute against. We have another customer who tells us a story about a systemic technology problem that was in the company for many years. And after using and embracing these work styles and different ways to work, they actually were literally be able to solve this problem with a particular remote team who came up with a unique idea to solve it. They executed it, and after several years of having this issue, they were able to solve it, in a matter of months with focus. But it was never surfaced before because this particular team never even knew that they could contribute to solving that problem. So I think it works in both directions, optimizing to the best decision.
It's interesting that you brought that up, because the next thing I was going to ask you about is the use of collaboration for innovation, which is basically what you just described.
Yeah, I mean, collaboration is about technologies. It's about getting work done and access and ease. User experience is incredibly important to us. We're a really, I think, interesting company in terms of the mix of, we have an enterprise strength, really hardcore technology for the enterprise. At the same time, it's consumer friendly and user experience so that users have a really simple and easy way, accessible way to use the product. So yes, I think it's used critically to get work done. It's also used to create great ideas and to share ideas and for innovation. Many of our customers use our product for the stories I said, Michael, but also to go beyond that on how do we use it to innovate together, where we're bringing ideas together from all over the organization. And by the way, outside the organization, going back to why are companies more and more developing customer collaboration areas and using external communities, because your customers have great ideas too. So when they're engaged and when they're working with you in a relationship that we described earlier, they're actually bringing ideas to the table for your company as well.
Well, that kind of co-creation or co-innovation or co-partnership is, if you can do that with your customers, in terms of buying signals, there's no better buying signal, because if you're collaborating directly with your customers, they're in it with you.
I think you said it perfectly, Michael, and I think that's one of the core reasons why the market sees this business growing so much over the next year or 2 years. Because if you're not actually doing that today, you're either thinking about it, or you're going to see your competitors doing it, and you're going to start to do it as well. So I think we're only on the beginning. We're only on the beginning of this journey.
So let's talk about user experience. And you mentioned that that's extremely important at Jive. So maybe you can share a little bit of your thinking and some of the things that you're doing at Jive around that.
Sure. Jive was a pioneer in this industry, and in a really great way really developed this whole concept and category in business to be able to work socially and openly and all the things that we talked about. With that said, it's really not about having feature and function and being able to have all of these different things that you can do with the platform. It's actually about, can it solve my problem in an easy, simple way? And so we've really evolved our strategy from all of the things that we can provide from a feature innovation standpoint to how do we make those features and innovations available in a simple, beautiful, smart interface. Because remember, I mentioned this concept of our lifestyle has created and impacted our work style. We absolutely expect, why would we go to work and think, oh, okay, now we want to work with crappy applications. We want to work with beautiful applications because we work with them all day long on our phones and on our tablets and on our computers in our personal life. And so that's what work is about. Now, why wouldn't we want it as easy and as simple at work? So our philosophy on user experience is it needs to be simple. It needs to be beautiful and elegant from the standpoint of interacting with the technology, and it needs to be smart so that it delivers content and context to Michael, who's running his business, that's different than the content and context that it delivers to me or one of my colleagues. And so we're using technology to make sure that that experience is simple and beautiful, but at the same time is totally relevant to you and delivers the content that you need on the timelines you need it, because you have different needs in your job than I do.
So we've only got about 7 minutes left, but this is a very important point. So can you elaborate a little bit on this notion of content and context, and especially in the enterprise with collaboration? So what does context mean in the enterprise in this way?
Sure. I have different roles in my job depending on what I'm working on and what teams I'm working on. So if you think of everything starting at the core of what that person's or knowledge worker's identity is, they're going to be interacting with things all day long that create different contexts for them. I may be working in my small work group on a particular project that's due next week. At the same time, the CEO has sent and put out a vision for the company that I need to understand so I can connect my work to that. And there may be some tasks I need to complete with HR or with IT or with other functions in the company that are cross-functional to the identity I have in my team group. And so the context of what content I need every day is going to be depending on what role I'm playing at that part of the day. So what we deliver is an experience and content that puts you in those roles so that you can quickly be able to access what you need to get either that task done or what you need to be able to connect with the right individuals. So that's what I mean by content in context, that the technology is smart enough to be able to serve you the content and the experiences and the people that you need to work with versus what they're going to serve, what we're going to serve to somebody else in a different context. Some of it is going to be similar in terms of company news, leadership, communications, cultural information, and some of it's going to be very different because it's cross-department.
So this is one of the keys to the success of collaboration, right? Is this notion of delivering the content in the right context for that person when they need the information.
I think it's critical to drive the right level of connection and engagement, which then leads to productive collaboration. So some content is shared by other organizations, and some content, maybe one of our most valued pieces of content, is shared and developed really by my team or by me. And so once that content is surfaced and I'm trying to create the ability to do the next thing with that content, I want the right people to surround it. So it works both ways. Content coming from other areas of the organization or outside the organization, and content coming from me and my team. So the capability to be able to work as an individual, centered on my identity, then being able to work in my team environment, which is my close-knit team, probably of a smaller nature, my department, across those departments, and then with my company, being able to switch those roles and clearly having access to information, tools, and context in all of those roles helps me be able to get my job done, use my technology in a really easy way, and most importantly, connect me with the people I need to be connected with.
And so when those conditions are in place where all of that's happening, then the organization has the ability to surface interesting things, important ideas that may be out of the limelight, but can be useful to somebody else inside the company.
Yeah, we call that, the ability to, see the surprise, and then being able to, take advantage of that. Like, wow, I didn't know that was going on over there. I'm going to connect that with what I'm doing, and now I have an even better way to advance my work, my team's work, or the organization's work. So it's always a great surprise and in innovation, where you then get those ideas surfaced where before they were hidden in places we didn't see and we couldn't take advantage of them.
And how, we only have just like I have a lot of questions that I left to ask you, but we've only got 3 minutes. So very quick.
So fast.
We'll definitely come back. So how is collaboration, as you've been describing it, different from just people talking?
Well, I think there's multiple things. So I think there's the right connections, the right communication, and then the right collaboration. And we talked a lot about collaboration today, but really it's about those three things: connection, communication, and collaboration. Connection super important because we talked a little bit about the macro trends of workforces working from all different places and the diversity of many different aspects of it. You're not always going to be sitting next to the people that you need to work with. And so knowing the right connections is critically important. Communicating in a way that's both, we kind of talked about content and context, which is just in time for me to be able to get my work done. I also need the ability to talk to you real time, whether it's through work application or instant messaging application or live talk. I need that real time connection. All of that then leads to how do I better collaborate in the right team. So I think it's really about those, we call it the 3 C's, and really driving the right capability across those. Some of it is about the technology infrastructure, and that's super important, but it has to be that I can connect with the right people I need to get the work done first.
Okay, wow, there's so much that's here. So let's just finish off by, can you offer advice to enterprise buyers who are looking at improving collaboration, connection inside their organizations? What advice would you have for them?
Yeah, I mean, the first piece of advice I would say, if you're looking at how do I improve the way that we communicate and collaborate inside, and how do I improve the way that we create the right relationships with our customers, then you really first have to determine how you're going to pull together the right team across your organization to go and investigate that together, because that's super important in how people work across different functions, and making sure that there is a cultural appetite for being able to change the way people get work done today. And you're going to find that your employees want this. And so you want to work with a team or a company that really has been through this and knows how to help you guide the journey.
And how about one last question?
Okay.
What advice do you have for companies that are going down this path for encouraging adoption of this new way of working?
Find the passion point for employees of what they think needs to change in the company, and let them work on it with you. Because what happens when employees own the changes is they go faster, they go better, and it's a benefit to everyone.
So the key is to get buy-in and make sure that the employees own the change, that you're not forcing it from the top.
Has to be part of it. Same thing on the customer side, by the way. Find your biggest issue with your customers and ask them to help you solve it with them in a way that they can interact with each other. And suddenly it's not a problem. It's actually something that people are working on together. It's not only going to get solved faster, but you're going to create very meaningful relationships along the way.
Okay. Elisa Steele, thank you so much. This has been wonderful. It seems, the conversation has gone by so quickly, and we've learned a lot about collaboration and communication inside the enterprise.
Well, it was really fun, Michael. Thanks for being a great host.
So everybody, we have been talking with Elisa Steele, the CEO of Jive Software. This has been episode number 143 of CXOTalk. Thank you so much. And we're having a special episode on Monday at 10:30 Eastern Time with Robert Tass, who is the Chief Marketing Officer for Pegasystems. So please come back on Monday. And of course, we'll be back again next Friday. Thanks, everybody. And Elisa Steele, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.